Two things I've learned from life and art are the blessing of being lucky and the gift of being wrong, then getting it right. Here's what I'm after. I was fortunate when I landed at Bradley University, for there I was given the opportunity to sweetly Cuisinart the blended craft of poet, critic, editor, and teacher. I was fortunate as well when the state of Illinois offered the chance to serve as poet laureate. This is also where I discovered I'd been wrong for years. Like most academics, I'd been taught and had come to believe that poetry was a dead art. We poets in academe fancy ourselves among the few keeping poetry's fire alive. We like to think of ourselves as priests in a village of agnostics. But with my first of well over 200 forays to read poetry and grade in high schools, community colleges, local writing groups, nursing homes, churches, factories, and the like, I encountered bristling interest in poetry. Say this, 300 people gathered in the Mendota, Illinois Carnegie Library one April night better suited to planting crops. Most had sheaths of their poems clutched to their breasts. They waited anxiously for me to announce winners of the town's yearly poetry contests for citizens ranging from kids to the geriatric set. The audience cheered for those winners as if they just hit the winning bucket in the state tournament. For them, and for countless others in our nation, I learned, poetry carries both personal and public significance. For an art supposedly pushing up aesthetic daisies, poetry flourishes among the people in the streets, in the schools, nightclubs, universities, and online in new and compelling digital forms. The revelation so moved me, I wrote a book of essays on the subject and titled it, cheekily, Poetry's Afterlife. I wish my parents were here so I could acknowledge them for not locking me in the basement when I sat them on the blue living room couch and declared, Mom and Dad, I've figured out what I want to do with my life. I am going to be a poet. I can still remember my dad's eyes, very blue eyes. In their place, let me thank my wife, Deb, for these decades of patiently critiquing endless poem and essay drafts in need of redemptive revision, what I like to call the God of the second chance. In the decades since that charged moment with my parents, this is what I've come to understand about the craft of poetry. The Greek root of the word poetry, poiesis, means to make. In the Renaissance, poesy was an exact equivalent for makers. Poets are makers who craft a thing brought suddenly to life only when shared with others. But how? When asked where one poem came from, William Butler Yeats responded, "I made it out of a mouthful of air." For me, when I sit down at the writing desk each morning, I feel like the carpenter with a stack of boards, a saw, some nails, and a big hammer. Happily, I've no idea what I'll make that day. A table, a chair, a birdhouse, or maybe nothing but mountains of sawdust. It's that element of risk and discovery that so enthralls me with writing, that I am catalyzed in the making of something that reveals itself as it is made. That's the life of the artist, and it's a life I relish. Thank you to everyone at the Lincoln Academy for this humbling honor. It's a thrill to be next to such distinguished and articulate and good-souled people. Thank you.